Haunting Nights Behind Bars, real stories from the inside. Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The air was electric with tension in the crowded halls of Attica Correctional Facility in New York. It was September 1971, and inmates were on the brink of an explosive uprising. The sounds of shouts and clanging metal reverberated, building to a cacophony as frustrations boiled over. Then the alarm sounded. Chaos erupted as inmates rushed from their cells, driven by anger and discontent. Guards scrambled to restore order, but they were outnumbered. The situation escalated quickly. A group of inmates, in a show of defiance, seized control of a section of the prison, taking hostages including guards and staff members. As the riot gained momentum, one inmate, known for his leadership, fell unexpectedly, clutching his chest. Panic swept through the crowd. Was this a prelude to worse chaos? The clash of wills echoed, but amidst the upheaval, the pain of that one man's collapse turned the riot from a protest into a matter of life and death. What began as a cry for change was spiraling out of control. The stakes had never been higher, and the events unfolding within those walls would rattle the institution for years to come. But what had led these men to this crucial moment? To uncover this, we must delve into the lives of those in Attica and explore the tension that had been building for far too long. Established in 1931, Attica Correctional Facility was known for housing some of New York's most notorious offenders. The prison operated under a strict routine, with roll calls, scheduled meals, and limited recreation time. Yet, the reality inside was far harsher than the structured environment suggested. Overcrowding had become a major issue, with inmates crammed into cells without adequate space or resources. Complaints about food quality and unsanitary conditions echoed through the corridors, causing mounting frustration. Reports of corruption among the guards further complicated the atmosphere. Inmates dealt with favoritism and violence, creating an environment thick with mistrust and anger. Multiple interviews with former inmates revealed chilling accounts of intimidation and neglect, intensifying the need for reform. For many, the prison had become a hellish landscape, where survival depended on alliances with other inmates, often leading to gang affiliations that exploited weaknesses within the system. In the months leading to the riot, inmates began organizing quiet protests, expressing their grievances through subtle signs of dissent, refusing meals, noncompliance during roll call, and sharing whispered stories that rallied support within the ranks. The tension was palpable, but neither the guards nor administration took these early warnings seriously. As the unrest grew, the risk of violence loomed ever closer, and soon it would explode with devastating results. The mounting grievances among inmates made the atmosphere ripe for an uprising, but what would it take to break the silence? An unexpected confrontation set the scene for what lay ahead. As tensions in Attica reached a boiling point, an unexpected incident sparked the riot. During a routine shakedown, guards discovered a smuggling operation involving contraband items hidden within the prison. The ensuing investigation led to accusations against several guards, further exacerbating divisions between inmates and staff. Factions began to form, and rivalries grew stronger as whispers of rebellion filled the air. On the day of the riot, the combination of anger, distrust, and desperation converged. During visiting hours, inmates publicly voiced their frustration, calling for equal treatment and better living conditions. This act of defiance drew the ire of the guards, who, feeling threatened, prepared for a harsh retaliation. The fuse had been lit. What followed was chaos. Inmates stormed through the facility, taking guards hostage and barricading themselves. The once quiet prison yard transformed into a battleground for dignity, desperation spilling over into violence. Behind those walls, lives hinged on the outcome of this confrontation. As news of the escalating situation reached the outside world, authorities scrambled to contain the growing crisis. But among the turmoil, stories of personal struggle emerged. Interviews with inmates on the periphery of the chaos revealed haunting tales of survival and betrayal. What was it like to live through such turmoil? As the night wore on, the future of Attica hung in the balance, leaving everyone, from inmates to guards, questioning what would come next. With the foundations of the prison system shaking, the outcome of this turmoil would resonate far beyond its walls. As the riot unfolded at Attica, the chaos intensified. Inmates began seizing control of the facility, barricading their makeshift fortifications against the guards. With hostages in hand, they demanded not only better living conditions but also a review of their sentences and assurance of their safety from violent reprisals. This power shift was unprecedented. The fear that had long characterized life inside Attica transformed into a collective will to fight for freedom and dignity. In the command center, prison officials were on high alert. They monitored every movement, aware that one misstep could lead to further bloodshed. While negotiations began, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Several inmates, portraying themselves as leaders, emerged to facilitate communication between the groups inside and outside the prison. Their willingness to negotiate offered a glimmer of hope, but tempers flared as the hours wore on, and the initial camaraderie began to fray. Amid the standoff, poignant stories emerged from the hostages and inmates alike. A guard, once thought untouchable, shared his fears and vulnerabilities, reflecting on his role in a system that was failing everyone involved. His emotional testimony echoed within the walls, humanizing the conflict and reminding all present that they were, ultimately, just individuals seeking connection amid the turmoil. As tensions peaked, the inmates prepared for a decisive showdown. Rumors spread through the prison about possible interventions from external law enforcement. Would the situation be resolved peacefully, or would a bloody confrontation be the inevitable conclusion? The stakes could not be higher. As dawn broke over Attica, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Negotiations had stalled. The inmates' demands were not being met. It became clear that time was running out, and the prison's administration sought to take control through force if necessary. The tense standoff began to shift from a conversation toward an impending crackdown as police forces gathered outside the prison. Suddenly, the situation erupted once more. With tensions high, a faction of inmates, frustrated by the lack of progress, launched a surprise attack against their captors. The riots spread deeper into the facility. Shouts of defiance filled the air as the rebellion surged, creating scenes of both bravery and horror. The guards, overwhelmed, struggled to manage the chaos. Meanwhile, external pressure intensified as the media descended upon Attica Correctional Facility. News cameras captured the unfolding drama, broadcasting it to the world outside. Inmates could see the flickering lights of news choppers overhead, further fueling their determination to be heard. Public interest surged, turning the events inside Attica into a national story. For many prisoners, this was a moment of reckoning. The spotlight on their plight could change everything. Inside the prison, a sense of urgency mounted as negotiations faltered. Leaders among the inmates gathered in a tense meeting, evaluating their next steps. They stood divided between those seeking more extreme measures and others advocating for a peaceful resolution. The decision made in this pivotal moment would determine the fate of everyone in Attica. As the sun set on the chaotic day, and with emotions running high, the decision was made. This would be an all-or-nothing final stand. Inmates fortified their positions with makeshift barricades, readying themselves for what they felt might be their last fight for dignity. The atmosphere electrified, tension palpable like a coiled spring. When law enforcement entered the facility, everything changed. The execution of their plan felt uneasy, but they were determined to regain control. The atmosphere was heavy with conflict, the sound of boots on the concrete echoing as the forces moved in, each step a reminder that the balance of power was shifting back to the hands of the administration. A tense face-off soon erupted. Inmates shouted their demands while officers rushed in, determined to stabilize the situation at any cost. With tear gas and pepper spray deployed, the horrifying clash began. The air filled with smoke and confusion, making it difficult to discern friend from foe. Amid the chaos, the story began to change. The resilience of the inmates shined through. While some prepared for a fight, others found new strength in solidarity, forming a human chain of support against the spray of tear gas, refusing to back down in the face of overwhelming force. As sirens blared and chaos ensued, the narrative that had begun with anger and desperation was shifting. The night would end in tragedy for some, but would also ignite a movement for reform within the penal system that could not be ignored. The haunting nights behind bars were etched in the minds of those both inside and outside Attica. Although the physical battle seemed lost, the ideological fight for justice and change was just beginning. In the aftermath of the riot, the ripple effects would challenge the foundations of the correctional system, inspiring a reckoning that would last far beyond the walls of Attica.